energetic herbal allies, and all surrounding the idea that we're accommodating survivors of sexual and reproductive trauma, with the various systems. I certainly will not cover all of the properties for every single plant. We could probably do a whole class or series of classes just on one. So without further ado, let's get into it. So this first little group of herbal allies for accommodating survivors is nutritive in nature. We delved into a little bit in our herbal ally class yesterday for psychedelic integration, not yesterday, and the last class last week, sometime before. We did delve into, as far as coming down from a psychedelic experience, our kidneys and hydration levels and hormonal levels can be taxed. And we went over some adaptogenic herbs for finding that homeostasis again. With survivors of sexual and reproductive trauma, depending on how long ago the event or traumatic events occurred, we could be looking at a picture where someone's been suffering for a very long time, sometimes in a compartmentalized way. And so depending on the amount of years that the survivor has been coping with this amount of stress and trauma, and I'm not saying that all survivors do. Some certainly have community and healing allies in place to address and integrate and move on. But many times it's the case, because we're still having to pay our bills and stuff, that we are depleted, that we're, in general, people living in modern society are depleted of minerals and basic nutrients, specifically trace minerals, because even our organic food is monocrops, right? And so growing food on one spot time and time again, same thing as a woman who's been pregnant like year after year, your body is depleted greatly of minerals. It used to be the way, and still is in parts of the world, that we would always give Aine. Cudden mentioned that in her guest speaking. She mentioned giving Aine. She mentioned where we all rotate and work in each other's kind of watts or areas together. The animals are rotating freely. It's really the colonialist way of ravaging the earth in order to produce food. I mean, if you look at it that way, because it does start with fences. It starts with killing all the buffalo, killing all the indigenous grazing animals that are naturally there, going to be spreading the seeds, going to be spreading the manure and remineralizing the soil. But now there's fences up, the animals can't graze. People are trying to maximize profit, all of these things. John Trudell talks a lot about it in that first album from the first class. But because of these reasons and more, humans across the board living in a modern way, even the ones who are fortunate enough to have access to organic produce and things like that, supplements, are generally going to be depleted of basic nutrients, specifically trace minerals. Trace minerals are very important, particularly to the reproductive organs. And men and women and all genders like that. They're very important in the production of healthy semen. Trace minerals are and have been linked, lack of trace minerals in semen have been linked to birth defects. Very important for female part reproductive health as well, for alleviating symptoms of PMS, menopause, play a huge role, trace minerals, and mood as well, and depression and all sorts of things like that. So just for humans in general, these are great herbal allies, but specifically to survivors, we could be looking at someone who's been depleted for a very, very long time. Disproportionately, survivors don't have access to resources such as organic fresh food and supplements. So yeah, that's why nutritive herbs first. Start with the ground up. And as an herbalist and an advocate, as an eco-sensual herbalist, it's key to remember our cardinal directions of herbal medicine making, and that we're wanting to work with herbal allies that are going to nurture from the ground up and nurture the benevolent and or healthy qualities in a person, so that they are then built up to be strong enough to integrate the resources themselves in an empowered way. Okay. All right. So first one's going to be red clover. I love red clover. It's high in trace minerals. White clover works just fine too. You can make teas, tinctures, vinegars, capsules, any of the ways that we talked about to take herbs internally. for the aerial part, so for leaves and flowers. Wonderful edible, wild edible, wonderful to work into ritual and ceremonies, for fertility, for rites of passage. Mm, Word to the wise with red clover, if you are looking at a potential surgery coming up, it has been known to increase blood production. It can be tonifying to the kidneys, particularly the leaves can be tonifying to the kidneys and supportive and good blood health. So for example, though, it's so supportive to good blood health that it's one that I personally don't use, for example, like during the third trimester with a pregnant client, because, maybe she's going to get a C-section. We don't know. I hope not. But, and it's not like none of the herbs on this list today are heroic herbs. We're going to be working very much in the grandmother, like available in most bioregions, common to the people, herbal allies for a reason. It's just like a little side note, like it's very, very nurturing to blood health, to the point where, like, maybe I have heard, not much, and this is only anecdotal wisdom, but I've heard, around the herbalist community as well, that some complications, you don't want to bleed too much during or post surgery. So just word to the wise. So when we think red clover, we also think nurturing blood health, nurturing to the kidneys, restoring trace minerals, and wonderful for all ages as well. So all ages of survivors, working that like key nutrition back into their diet, and young survivors, which is particularly tragic and sad, but very necessary to advocate for in our younger age survivors. It can be, and in all ages, but particularly in children, it can be a common side effect. And we do have a class specifically on this, like not diagnosing, but just recognizing signs, and accommodating ways that survivors can respond. But it can be very common to have like stomach issues, not want to eat, not be able to actually stomach what's going on, like vomiting out of nowhere can be a sign, particularly in young people. But yeah. And so this can be a fun way to get that nutrition, established, while we're also like healing, nurturing blood health. Yeah. Okay, next herbal ally, please. Red raspberry leaf in the house. Okay. Originally indigenous to Eastern Europe, this herbal ally and her many cousins have been used for reproductive health and nutrition for time immemorial. You can tell red raspberry leaf from other berries because of the moony silver side of her underleaf. When in doubt, if you're like, is this blackberry leaves? Is this raspberry boysenberries? For those of you who are up in the Northwest, I love harvesting berries up there, but they're like all up in each other. So yes, so red raspberry leaves under her leaf gives her away with the moony silver glow. She is traditionally, in many indigenous cultures, associated with women's reproductive health specifically, although in general is just very nutrifying, very mineral rich. And red raspberry has this in common with alfalfa, with nettles, which we're going to do. Her root structure goes quite far down into the dirt, and also has such fine roots along the way that she's able to pick up trace minerals in soils that haven't been monocropped. And frequently they're just growing wild, hence them being able to pick up a lot of the trace minerals that are still left in the soil, whereas like some of the organic vegetables don't, because they're just on the same plot time and year in year out. Yeah, what else? Red raspberry leaf has quite a nice flavor, so any way to be taken internally. One of my favorite ways is to make like this is a wonderful base for like iced teas. It's summertime where y'all are right now and can get quite hot. So, and again, herbs are only as good, especially when we're talking about nutritive herbs, they're only as good as you can meet your client where they're at. So some of my fun ways, again, to incorporate this into like a medicinal food is to the red raspberry leaf tea popsicles, or like big jars of iced tea. You could do like, I don't know, a few capfuls of like tart cherry juice and ginger or something, like whatever flavors you want, lemon, lime, I don't know, lavender. But the red raspberry leaf itself, when you make it into a tea, isn't a very strong flavor like green tea or anything. So wonderful to combine with flavors, wonderful option for at home popsicles. If you're helping a survivor who maybe is doing a hospital stay and they're on a liquid only diet, it's one of the favorites for making into like icy pops or broths as well, to add it to a broth. Mm. And this one, right, this is what I would refer to instead of the red clover if I had a question about the surgery possibly coming up, right? Because we don't have that kind of like asterisk next to it. Um, the berry itself is high in antioxidants, right? High in antioxidants and boosting to the immune system, contains vitamin C, vitamin A, the yummy stuff. Also wonderful for a substitute, the red raspberries, like the fruits of themselves and fertility rituals, and substitute like to those of you who may not, have clients or be into like the blood painting, like painting with menstrual blood, um, which can be therapeutic and quite interesting, but it can be a nice alternative to that. Again, for younger survivors, I'm thinking like rites of passage. I'm thinking like um, getting in touch with one's own body, but it's just like a nice artistic way. I'm thinking about like a rites of passage, like a blessing way for a young survivor getting her first period, but there's like a real strong aversion because of like all the disconnect and compartmentalization from her own body from like surviving early trauma. But we're like, so she's not quite in a space where we're gonna be like, yeah, and then we take the cup out and give our blood to the plants. Like that's not where her family's coming from. But maybe we could do like, a pie to all share that like is uterus shaped and filled with red raspberries, like, or something, some sort of like more modern day ritual symbols. I use this one a lot when dealing with survivors who may be younger as well. But yeah, overall good for health, circulation, heart health for the berries, and nutritive. Okay, next slide. Oat Nation. Okay. So um and all of these herbal allies have their cousins, their brothers, sisters. They're like, this one grows over here now, it's adapted to this way, and blah blah blah, because we're not dealing with any super specific ones in this class. But for our purposes, I'm just talking about avena sativa, or oats as you know it, hence the picture, just like whole oats. You could also substitute milky oats or oat straw, which is actually the straw of the oat. When working with the straw of the oat, it's similar, or like the stalk of a plant, it's going to be similar nutritive qualities to like almost working with the flower slightly more, but not as much as like working with the whole leaf or the whole plant, or in this case, the whole oat. I'm really into the like sticking with the whole plant. When we think back on our cardinal directions of indigenous herbal medicine making, sticking with the whole plant whenever possible. So I try to, and I know don't always, but I do try to give little tidbits for every part of the plant I can, or at least it's shown on the picture. So it's like, okay, with red raspberries, we can be making a like herbal, nutrient rich, mood boosting survivor tea with like the leaves as a base, and then like red raspberry juice is like, supporting heart health and blah 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 to make it tart. With this one, we could be doing like we could be cooking our whole oats, in a oat straw tea, even like super nutrient dense, like any way possible without like geeking out too much. I guess I love working with the whole plant because different parts of the plant are gonna contain different amounts and different substances, and complement each other to help make it truly bioavailable. And so oats is a huge and maybe a number one herbal ally, nutritive herbal ally for survivors, due to the frequency of adrenal burnout, anxiety, nervousness, lack of sleep that can come with being a survivor. Yeah, all of these things, living in adrenaline mode, cortisol, all of these things on overdrive, depletion. So it has it all. It's like a nervine and it's very nutritive. This one is very mucilaginous as well. So kind of like goes in and coats the lining of the digestive systems. And again, one of the systems that can all systems can be affected when you're a survivor, all body systems, emotional, mental, your organs, everything, because everything affects everything in your body. Um, but a main system that can be affected, like we were just talking about with incorporating foods back into the diet, is the stomach and the digestion. Truly, it's our most ancient organ and shuts down, in adults and children. It's just a primitive action that our stomach shut down, like when in fight or flight, and so it's like when we're having that hormonal reaction once or many times on repeat, yeah, it can shut down, and inflammation can also be an issue. Um, Healthy bowel movements can also be an issue, depending on where the sexual or reproductive trauma occurred as well. And so this is going to be also a wonderful herbal ally to consume whole, and is like wonderful for the whole digestive system, on the way in, on the way out. And then, yeah, calming to the nervous system. Safe, it's a herbal food, so like safe for lactation, all these things. Very rarely, I've never seen it on a contraindicated list, like on a contraindicated herb list for any medications or anything. But with all of these herbs, I forgot to say at the beginning, please partner with main care providers if you're not qualified, or like when in doubt, if it's going to like have reactions to medications or something someone's on. But this is certainly under the herbal food category. Again, available on EBT. You can go right to the store and get it. Oats is going to be another herbal food like this, the corn silk, where it's so sweet. The GMO kind of the oats has become so sweet that it attracts pests a lot, and so it does tend to get doused. So I will say, like, not to be food classist or anything, but this is another one like the corn silk. If you're just buying it at the store, you want it to be organic. But even the organic oats, one of the last affordable organic foods out there, I think. And so wonderful for all of these reasons. And Vedic medicine, it's traditionally associated with the moon time of life, which is from 0 to 7. So all things like that. If the childhood trauma, if the sexual reproductive trauma happened during that phase in childhood, this could be a wonderful herbal ally. Mm, I love to personalize it, like a bowl of medicinal oats, starting your day out with a bowl of medicinal oats, or having it around the time when it's like maybe the changing day part of the time, where it's like anxiety picks back up again for the survivor, or sometime before bed if like sleep and night terrors is the issue. Um, you can really personalize that medicinal bowl of oats at that time. So it's like, is this person dealing with circulation issues, hemorrhoids, who knows, in response as well to the sexual trauma? Well, then we can put in some cinnamon, some cayenne to like help the circulation. Is this person dealing with like low libido and feeling totally disconnected from their sexuality, or maybe sexuality with their partner who they want to be with, but they are having recurring memories or something? Then we may put some like vanilla aphrodisiac in there, to gently open things. So very personal. I like it can be its own base formula and menstruum, like herbal menstruum of its own. And then topically, wonderful for our like applying topically, like if you're doing herbal first aid for survivors and it was like happened recently. So there may be like inflamed tissue, there may be scarred tissue we're looking at, there may be painful areas. Oats is wonderful and frequently incorporated into soaps and shampoos and everything like that, because it's disinflammatory, mucilaginous, meaning sticky, icky, gooey, ooey. Um, Meaning it's got that goo that oats has, and it comes and really like calms down irritated skin like that. So wonderful, like a milky oat bath, warm bath. Oh, can be lovely. I mean, we could do whole classes on just one herbal ally, but as a practitioner, I feel strongly like I could just only dedicate my life to giving like medicinal milky oat baths. Like you put like different mixtures depending on what the client's got going on, different essences, this and that, because it's truly like coconut, one of those foods you could almost just live off of, and entire nations of people have at times. All right, next slide. Basil. And for our purposes, again, are these herbal allies and all their cousins and sisters, right? So we have like Tulsi, holy basil, just Thai basil, culinary ones, like all sorts of basils. But I'm just talking just straight up holy basil, and her sisters and cousins, whatever's local to you, is antifungal, antibacterial. I do think we mentioned her last class. She was on the slides, but antifungal, antibacterial, one of those herbs that also falls under the protection herbs. She's going to come up again in that class. When you make essences or flower baths from her flowers or from their flower, traditionally associated with cleansing energetically, as well as like abundance, like blessing and abundance. Um, supportive to the nervous system, adaptogenic, so helping the body find its homeostasis again. So this is going to be again another medicinal herbal food that really hits up several different systems. Supportive to again the digestive system, which certainly can be an issue for survivors frequently. Yeah, and cleansing in all the ways, like sage, like if you see so far all of the protective herbs have that in common, that they're antifungal, anti-parasitic, or something like that, because they're like in all the ways keeping the bad juju away. Basil falls under to that category, and yeah, has been used by, I'm sure, all of our, maybe not all of our ancestors, but some of all of our ancestors at some point. It can be wonderful to incorporate internally. So tinctures, teas, basil tea is just lovely as an iced tea as well. Think the popsicles, definitely in the stews. No, definitely in the stews, right? Then we're having an adaptogenic, like cleansing stew. But also for the plant baths. Yeah, don't forget about the plant baths. I remember mentioning this one. I like to make mop water from this one because it's not just one. I know of traditional indigenous cultures in North America where I've learned from friends who practice traditional Chinese medicine, and then here in South America. Oh, and also, yeah, participating in your Reuben culture at times, like have seen it again and again be associated with like the shmoney, the abundance, like the good, the cleansing. And so I do like to make mop water out of it. I haven't done that in a really long time, but wonderful for like the spritzers, the more energetic and spiritual baths, right? Like and I would say more than just the shmoney, which is obviously like a very shallow way to say that. Shallow yet relatable. Um, 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 yeah, and this one sounds really cheesy, but um, like calling in that self-worth. It's an adaptogenic nutritive herb that supports our immune system, supports our adrenals, supports our digestion, and calls in that good fresh life. Mop water, I'm just talking like making your own mop water, like if you have a Swiffer, or if you have a spray, or if you have a old school like Spaniard mop with the doohickeys, just put it in there, just boil some herbs, and then like I don't know, I usually put like a couple capfuls of like witch hazel or rubbing alcohol. Okay, next slide. Oh, also wonderful. Sorry, you don't have to go to the, yeah, wonderful to put into your own non-culturally appropriated smudge bundles because of the protection and the antifungal. So like all the herbs that fall under that category are gonna be wonderful options for that. Okay. Horsetail, and we did go over some of the properties of this last class, relating to integrating psychedelic experience and the like tapping out the depletion of the kidneys, perhaps the bladder, just dehydration in general. Again, self-care for and I'm just talking base level, like self-nutritive care, like making sure one gets enough water and isn't like constantly on fight or flight, can be not common for survivors. That can be something, not always, but it can be very frequent that survivors, again, especially those of us who have been living with the memories, or living with maybe experiences that we simply haven't had the time or privilege to like process or heal all the way through. So it's like there can be this almost addiction to the fight or flight, and that can show up in a lot of different ways, like not eating proper, not hydrating, like overdoing the caffeine, overdoing the alcohol, the numbing. It can show up in a lot of different ways, all of which affect your kidneys, your bladder, your levels of hydration, your mineral content. So horsetail is going to hit up all those systems, very tonifying to the kidneys, the bladder, diuretic herb, strengthening to the bones, high in silica, wonderful for the teeth, the hair, the nails. So like just like general wonderful nutritive self-care. I look to horsetail for like, again, and all of these herbs are great for, I feel, all humans. That's a blanket statement. Not all of these herbs are great for all humans. All of these herbs are great for many humans, but particularly survivors, yeah, are you're gonna see can struggle with the self-care on all the levels. Like, so depending on like, was it childhood? Was this a way of life? We don't know. Um, okay, next slide. Oh, I forgot to say just one thing. It was the horsetail and one of the Comita stories of when we came back into this earth, like this fourth time of the earth, that it was the ants who used a horsetail to like bring the people through a tunnel up back into the earth. So we like horsetail. Okay, next slide. Mm, vanilla bean. Yes, lovely. Okay, nutritive herb. So this is another wonderful, for example, horsetail and vanilla bean are big in my free little class, like free, like herbal allies for beauty, like for beauticians. Okay. Because horsetail and vanilla bean, huge with the herbal self-care, but also supportive to the internal organs and the good ways. But vanilla bean, anti-aging, anti-wrinkle, what, like collagen producing, aphrodisiac, delicious, smells great, makes you smell like a cookie. um um support, adaptogenic, supportive to finding homeostasis in the body. Mood boosting has been shown to slightly boost your serotonin levels. So I don't want to say like antidepressant, but I guess I'm in Peru, so I can antidepressant. um, and in a wonderful, sustainable way. And yeah, make sure, Namas, when you're working with the vanilla bean, that you're not getting the like essence that's sold in the baking aisle. Sometimes in the baking aisle, they'll have like a decent, just like alcohol and vanilla, which totally works and counts just as a vanilla tincture, vanilla bean tincture. But sometimes it's like just caramel coloring and alcohol and flavor. So just make sure it's not that, because that doesn't have the same properties. Whenever possible, work with the whole plant. These one is like a more expensive. It may not grow close to you. If you're in California, it might actually grow pretty close to you. It grows in Mexico a lot. I try to get mine from a good source. I'll put them in the bonus material that has produces this liquid gold that's just fresh pressed bean liquid, which is like truly liquid gold. Oh, it's like at times in my life when I've been really struggling with just like depression in general, or postpartum depression, or just living my life as a survivor, where I'm just like, wow, this is a lot. I've been just straight capfuls in my drink every day, and it tastes delicious. It's just like vanilla essence. Spritzers, oh my God, yes, 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 yes. For the antidepressant, stress like alleviating, and then like anti-aging, beautiful self-care, right? For survivors. So also think like steams. I didn't say that much, but anytime I'm saying like hot bath as well, steams, if you're a practitioner who does bottom steaming of any kind, or face steaming, foot baths, a different practitioner do different things. Like I've been to medicinal spas before where they have like herbs in the hot foot bath. That's a great way to absorb herbal medicine too, because the pores on your feet are so absorbent. Not going to get as many of the nutritive qualities in a hot bath as you will taking it internally, but I'll work with all the plant. So there's no harm, no foul in sitting in a hot plant bath or steaming while you're sipping on the tea or the essence or like that. Okay, next one, please. Nettles. Oh, that's a nice picture. I like that. Okay. um, I'm like, thank you, Canva. um, Nettles is a wonderful mother of medicinal herbs, and has been found on all continents for a very long time. Her and her many iterations. Um, when we're talking nettle, I'm talking the aerial part, preferably harvested when she's not seeding. This is a picture of her starting to seed, but like you with nettle, you can work with her as a whole food, as which I love the herbal foods, because it's like, especially those of us practicing as herbalists, or advocates, or more as herbalists or doulas, I would say. But like practicing with holistic healing practices in the United States, depending on where you live, the regulations can be very strong. So whenever, and I'm not encouraging any of our graduates ever to put themselves or their clients and risk way, and jeopardize yourself like that. So I just particularly lean on and love, right? Like the oats, the nettles, when you're working with the medium-sized leaves, you can totally just substitute as spinach for almost any recipe. You may need to simmer them a little bit longer, add some butter, add some salt. Beautiful, like quiches, stews, certainly. Spinach Florentine. I don't know, like any substitute for spinach. Actually restorative to the bone health, actually dense and rich minerals, actually way more nutritive than spinach, and affordable. Nettle is revered in many indigenous cultures also for healing with her prickles. I do find this to be an energetic herbal ally that I commune with quite well. I too have been known to have my prickles and and it's I love this herb that heals through her pricks. I mean, and in Peru it's huge. There's entire Huaytascas or particularly within the Quechua Nation, like entire protocols where you wrap your whole body in stinging nettles fresh, or like are never supposed to, as an herbalist, like put your gloves on or anything because you like want to get the treatment of the nettles for your joint health. Like actually getting stung by stinging nettles is wonderful for joint health, also great for reducing swelling. um and it has its like many traditions just surrounding that. Like just like I know herbalists here who are just like maestros or maestras of nettle, like Ortega, nothing more, you know. What else? High in vitamin K. There's some debate when you take it internally. There's some debate in the herbalist community if it's like actually bioavailable in tea or whatever, because it's only fat soluble. But when in doubt, that's why I say like work with the whole herb. Just you have a beautiful, affordable food right there. um you know so there you go. Okay, next slide. I'm like, okay, motherwort. I believe now we're transitioning into some of the borderline nutritive but also like a stronger hormone balancing herbs, so like adaptogenic and with an affinity towards hormones. And I mentioned motherwort in our last class in contrast to blue tansy, which I think has more of a affinity towards homeostasis within the brain and mood. um Motherwort is the mother of us all. Very, very cheesy. I like to look at, for me, the holy trinity like that of female herbal allies. And they don't have to be female, but I look at them like the three sisters or something like that tale, like of motherwort, sage, and mugwort, no? And they've long been associated with reproductive health, with just really covering us full spectrum. No, those three together are frequently combined to cover us full spectrum for reproductive health, for all genders. But um this one is wonderful for those of our clients, those of our survivor clients who may be prone to depression, who may be prone to large mood swings, who may be coming down from a psychedelic experience and finding that riding the wave of the depletion of like certain hormones. So like depending, your serotonin can be depleted from just like not sleeping for long enough. No, like you get high while you're awake for long enough. And then like when you wake up, frequently your serotonin and oxytocin levels can be way down for like several days while everything kind of balances out. If you're doing therapy with MDMA, if you're, doing maybe synthetic psychedelics, same thing. It can be down. Gosh, even flooding the system with cacao, can lead to like a dip later on. So depending on how sensitive the person already is, and depending what memories maybe the survivor has had come up in psychedelic experiences or just in general, there may be large hormonal dips. And again, I am not suggesting that we heal depression for someone or try to act as a psychotherapist or a psychologist in any way or a psychiatrist. And whenever in doubt, or encourage people to get off their medication. That's not our place as advocates or herbalists, but this is a wonderful nutritive ally to just add gently to the toolkit to help calm down. Like if the emotional waves are like big jagged mountains, just make it into a nice rolling hill. Bunnies in green fields like that. And do what this plant is called, mothering, like really like someone's wrapping just like a soft blanket kind of around like the harshness of a lot of those emotional waves. So wonderful one for survivors. Can be taken internally, again, stews, tinctures, vinegars. Wonderful for the plant baths. Has an affinity, is astringent and also nurturing to the skin. So wonderful option for a nice hormone balancing hot bath or bottom steam. Yeah, loving the motherwort, loving that. Okay, next one. Sagebush, culinary. I think I tried to put those three together: motherwort, sage, and mugwort. Um, So sagebrush. Thank you. Sagebush culinary. Uh, and I'm saying this because, like, yeah, you each will find your way as herbalists and like where the lines are for you with cultural appropriation and reciprocity to the indigenous nations who have like stewarded certain plants and certain genetics of plants for time immemorial. You know, I can only share my perspective on it, and I already have. I feel strongly. So, whenever possible, working with sages that are not over harvested or endangered or culturally appropriating, like white grandfather sage, is a nice option. Just common culinary sage or like bush sage. There's many kinds of sage, many cousins and sisters, can be a wonderful option and still contains, for our purposes, the qualities that we would be wanting to help accommodate survivors. So antifungal, antibacterial, right? All the cleansing, smudging herbs are going to be anti-parasite. And so wonderful option for sitz baths for first aid for survivors. So if we're like looking at actual tears, and I always try to say sexual and or reproductive trauma. That's one of the things I'm working on, like with my posting and stuff, and I'll probably never get right, is that I love words too much. I get very wordy. And so I can't have like a whole training be like, this training's accommodating and advocating for survivors of sexual and or reproductive trauma, because that's how my titles be like sometimes. But it really is a thing because I want to encompass all that it actually is. And I maybe didn't get into that enough at the beginning of this course, I'm realizing, but that is why I keep saying and or reproductive trauma, because certainly may not be in a sexual context, certainly can be systematic, forced sterilization, a routine checkup that is just rough and not caring, totally not trauma informed. I myself have certainly come away from just routine exams feeling crying in tears, being a midwife, being an advocate in tears, and saying the things like, you're not supposed to do that, blah, 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 but it's like still happening and still traumatizing. And so it can come from many places. The trauma is incurred physically, mentally, emotionally, and if you're a spiritual person, spiritually, through like non-trauma informed contact and or like non-wanted contact and or non-consensual contact and or careless contact. Okay, because I've also treated clients who have literal scarred tissue and stuff within the reproductive tissues that maybe that practitioner wasn't malicious, certainly, but careless, in a place where you need to act with the utmost care and really be trauma informed and take it upon yourself to do that. So this can be a wonderful option for first aid. Several of the herbs we're covering are just general first aid for sitz baths, bottom steaming, dissolving scarred tissue, when taken internally, incorporated into the foods, stews, capsules, tinctures, and teas, help support good brain health, mind health, oxygenating to the brain, supportive again to the digestive system, known to be cleansing energetically, certainly throughout many cultures. And is a lovely option for like doing the hot baths, the teas, and everything like that. Yeah. Okay. Oregano. Yes. We didn't. I just put motherwort in. So yeah, these aren't hormone balancing herbs. We're doing first aid herbs now. We'll jump back into that other section. Oregano. So again, and all of her cousins, right? Found throughout human medicinal foods and many cultures, time immemorial, antifungal, antibacterial. This one is very strong. So, keep that in mind if working into a bottom steam. I would say not for bottom steaming, but could be great for taking internally, working into the foods, working into teas, using in our non-culturally appropriated smudge bundles, because also known to be like a father of herbs, like very protective energetically. Like oregano flowers also are so sweet to put into like an essence for that very strong, not to get too much into like gender roles or anything like that, but just like one's own even masculine energy or one's own feeling protected and stable like that energetically is wonderful. And congruently, it's a very strong antibacterial, antifungal. Like this one, like this one of those, if you have an essential oil firm that can straight up burn holes in people's skin. I actually put some on my 3-week-old baby, like being just like a young hippie mom and like whatever, just like actually still has a scar from it today. I'm very guilty moment as a mom. I cried. It was my first baby. I was 19. I'm like, it can be very strong. So yeah, maybe not in teas. I mean, maybe not in steams or the plant baths, but wonderful for working more into the food, certainly for the medicinal stews. Um, Wonderful for digestive health, very strongly wonderful for digestive health. Okay, so if we're looking at maybe a survivor who has an accumulation of candida and parasite problems, this can be a very strong herbal ally. Again, that protective, holding those boundaries strong, right? Like frequently, if not always, energetically, the properties of plants mirror what their physical qualities are for, or not mirror, or like emphasize or expound upon, almost, no, like give again, working with the whole plant, give that extra little, like, yes, now you're protecting like your gut health very strongly, and now you're like having really strong boundaries with parasites and with fungus that's like growing and living off of you that doesn't serve you. And now energetically, we're going to take a look at, with the flower essence of oregano and the flower bath of oregano, your parasitic relationships and all of these relationships you've created in your life with yourself and others and money and plants and things, that with life itself, that doesn't actually serve you because you've been in fight or flight for so long, that you actually like seek out these, or who knows what they have going on. You know, a frequent picture could be like they're a survivor who constantly like caretakes others, no, and is like constantly getting sucked dry and depleted. Like, so like, do you like me now? Do you like me now? Do you like me now? Depending, it all depends. It manifests different with everyone, but energetically, the oregano can help with that, like keeping the strong boundaries, like with that, like in the same way that it kills a parasite. Right, like a spiritual parasite, which can be very interesting as well. Just like mentioning that piece for those of you who maybe already practice herbalism or feel strongly about the spirit of the plants piece. And I don't want to get too much. Yeah, I try not to get like into politics or religion in that way, because all are welcome, as long as we're all respecting each other's space, you know. And I think like a round table with more varying ideas, the better. In a sense, like we all need to come together like that. But I will say, for those of us who maybe have a spiritual view like that, I have found it very, very effective for. I do look at sexual and reproductive trauma as demons, like bad spirits. Like that is just me personally. I'm not saying that's the truth or like anyone has to prescribe to that at all. I'm just saying, me as a practitioner, I personally see it in that way, and very helpful, you know, very helpful for like, and it is parasitic spirits like that can actually move through lineages. And sometimes you even hear abusers express feeling possessed, or it can be frequent that and I'm not taking the responsibility away from the abusers. That's why this is going to get political very quick in any way. I'm just saying, just an interesting side note for those of you who maybe study like shamanic herbalism. Okay. It can be very helpful for having strong boundaries in all the senses. Okay. Next one. Fennel. I'm like, now we're just popping around. Um, Fennel is considered a wonderful medicinal food, again, available on EBT, lovely. Wonderful and supportive to the digestive health, wonderful and supportive to hormone health and hormone balancing, particularly balancing out unhealthy levels of testosterone. And there's hundreds of hormones that flow through our bodies. I do not know them all. I'm not particularly trained in that. I mostly am only going to know the names of ones that regulate like fertility, the birth process, menopause, stuff that I specialized in or worked on with client depression. No. But I do know that like frequently I also have seen with clients who are survivors, again, that like perpetual cortisol and adrenaline loop, whether that's the relationship seeking that kind of leads us back into that familiar, but like familiar in a bad way state. And yeah, and constantly kind of like being hyper vigilant. And so that can lead to some unhealthy levels of testosterone and adrenaline and cortisol in the body. So this can be very supportive to work into foods and all of the nutritive ways. But really, if you can work with the whole plant in this food, it's a wonderful, like chopping up the root finely and making like a fresh salad with a balsamic vinaigrette, freshly sliced tomatoes. That's going to be like anti-cancer. Let's put it this way. Okay. So yeah, anti-cancer because I'm in Peru, but for those of you in the States, promotes healthy cells. It's been known to promote healthy cells. Which of course, if we grow too many healthy cells, then there's no place, hypothetically, again, not saying to substitute this instead of your main care provider, but hypothetically, biologically, if we just keep feeding our healthy cells and reproducing our healthy cells so much, well, there's not room for the unhealthy ones to reproduce like that. So wonderful, wonderful and supportive to the immune system overall, the digestive system overall, finding homeostasis within the hormones, and been known to promote healthy cells. Yep. Asparagus, another wonderful medicinal food. That photo is funny. So I'm sorry for the picture. That was not a great choice. Asparagus is just, I threw it in there because it's just another, I feel like I'm looking at fennel and asparagus being like, why did I? Oh yeah, because they're just like, again, available on EBT, can incorporate into food recipes. Totally 100% in the gray area as far as practicing as an herbalist, an eco-sensual herbalist, right? Like can literally go to the store and just like prepare a quiche with this or like work it into your meals. Also available in tinctures, and then medicinal vinegars is a great way. Like you can put medicinal vinegars on your salad. We're going to learn how to make those. Very supportive to the kidneys, bladder, and urethra. So it's like you can smell, so much so that you can smell after you've eaten asparagus, right? And so it's a humble herb, but I don't want to herbal food, but I didn't want to skip over it because adrenal fatigue, and then again that like fight or flight, can be very taxing to the kidneys as well. And again, like the dehydration, the lack of self-care. So very supportive to the kidneys and bladder. Wonderful for first aid too, in the sense that like if you get a UTI or repeated infections from the sexual or reproductive trauma, not saying that it will cure it with asparagus, but very supportive. It's like if you just even Google, like, what do? I have a bladder infection or a UTI. Like, obviously, seek main care provider help. First of all, like, go get a test, make sure what you have. But then they'll say, like, it'll be right up there in the top two, like asparagus, baking soda, that can help neutralize and alkalize your pH pretty quickly and support your bladder and your kidneys. Okay. I think let's do plantain. Oh, I didn't add the name on that one. Well, that's plantain. Sorry, I'll add it before I send it to your bonus materials. So I'm like, I think you can put it on now. This is plantain, as in plantago mayor, as in not the fruit, plantain. Wonderful. I believe we've referenced, maybe I just talked about it, the white man's foot. It popped up. No, that was a different class. This one has been known through many indigenous nations in North America as white man's foot. And actually here, I heard it referred to as that in Quechua recently. Oh, it is on the slide. Okay, great. Sorry, I just have it covered up. Okay. Because it popped up wherever the Europeans came. The seeds are very, it's looked at a lot as like a bad weed or invasive, but wonderful option for affordable edible food, and quickly has become integrated into many local indigenous recipes in North and South America because it is so useful. Wonderful first aid for survivors. So I would say like number one for first aid for survivors as far as like acute. So I'm talking hemorrhoids, I'm talking scarred tissue, like freshly scarred tissue, incisions, episiotomies, again, exams that went wrong. So like torn tissue or scratched tissue, right? Inflammation, infections, like those are all things that can be bruising, cuts, like those are all things that can be fresh from sexual and reproductive trauma and more, in any of the reproductive areas, and anal areas. And so, and mouth, like all over. But those are a lot of the common areas. And so this is going to be probably my number one herb for that. And you can find it almost everywhere growing, which is great. Definitely not over harvested. Certainly can incorporate it, like instead of spinach, if you get the medium-sized leaves, Oh, what else? Taken internally, it can help internal bleeding too. So like for internal first aid, if it was like really bad sexual and reproductive trauma, and or like C-section clients or post surgery clients who have had deep incisions, once they get the green light, or as long as it's not contraindicated by their practitioner, can be great for like healing from the inside. Big for producing healthy cells. So it helps the skin regrow. That's why a lot of herbal first aid is like known, like the plantain poultice. You can like chew up the leaf and put it on a cut or a bug bite on your skin any day of the week, because it's anti-inflammatory, antifungal, antibacterial. So wonderful for bottom sitz baths, wonderful for spritzers that are antifungal, antibacterial, medicinal baths, teas, all the stuff, all the things. What else? Like I was gonna say something else about it, but I don't know. I forgot. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Next slide. Oh, we're gonna do the bio break. Hold on. We're doing the bio break. Let me try to remember. It was something about the plantain. Oh. Oh, and yeah, and work with the whole plant whenever possible. It like I know that I keep repeating that, but work with the whole leaf whenever possible. You can incorporate it into the stews, into the any food recipe like spinach, and think to this plant when you want to regrow like cuts, especially if comfrey isn't an option. We're going to cover comfrey too, but something very comfrey is very strong for uh, promoting healthy cell reproduction. But I will say that with comfrey, one of the things is like it's so strong with supporting healthy cell reproduction that you don't want to use it for like internal cuts or like deep cuts, because it can actually, comfrey can help heal. Like if you have it in a salve or a poultice or a steam, it can actually heal the like top layers without, and the bottom layers aren't fully healed yet because it works that fast. So plantain's a great option. It's astringent as well. So it like really helps suck up, you know, if there's a wound that's deep like that, and to the point where you can drink it and inside for hernias, drink it inside for I don't know if you notice or how much it picks up over the Zoom, because we've struggled with that, but I do tend to sing like different, and not saying that I sound great or anything, because God knows I sometimes don't. But what I do try to do is like let my voice try different little frequencies. And it's like I imagine when I'm singing those ones that it's singing even sometimes to like different molecules, and or like even different timelines or different versions of myself. I don't know. It's nice to hit the different tunes sometimes to just like, yeah. Okay. Fenugreek seed. This is a wonderful culinary herbal ally, another one that has been long associated with reproductive health, um, particularly in traditional Hindu medicine, is what I know of. And in the Vedas, it's mentioned quite a bit at times for the herbal parts. Um, this herbal ally is wonderful for digestive health. Is also a mucilaginous, so think gooey, ooey, sticky, icky. So good for anti-inflammatory, good for the skin, very nourishing to the skin, very strong and producing healthy cells. So wonderful for incorporating into the food for like an anti-cancer diet. And instead of calling it like an anti-cancer diet, right? We're focusing on the like giving healthy cells. Um, hmm. Yeah, side note, wonderful for nourishing like the breast health. So like the mammary glands, wonderful herb for one of the, probably the, if I had to pick one lactation herb, that would be it. For nurturing the mammary glands. And also fenugreek is adaptogenic and has a affinity for the hormones as well. So another hormone balancing like motherwort, wonderful option to work into the foods, the stews, tinctures, vinegars. I like to do a nice, just like for first aid or self-care for survivors, you can do like wonderful for a natural DIY face mask, breast mask, bottom mask, like anything mask, belly mask, womb mask. I've done it mostly on like the face and breast, but it can be wonderful because if you can get the ground or grind yourself the seeds, it comes in this powder, or you can make it powder. And if you just wet the area, you want to do the mask on like clay. No, just like you're doing a clay mask, same thing. And it naturally, it's so mucilaginous that it's naturally going to get like kind of stuck on the face and gooey. Okay. If you're doing a face mask, for example. Um, and and then it'll dry like a clay mask when it's ready to be brought out. It'll like dry and crack. So, and wonderful to do on the breast area. They may be the part affected, you know, with the reproductive or sexual trauma. So that's a wonderful first aid, but also just lifelong practice for like nourishing the mammary glands and balancing the hormones. It's also like pulls the skin, helps tighten the skin. So, you know, like self beauty care like that. That's why good for the sagging areas of the body that you may not want to sag quite as much. And what else? Yeah, like that. Nourishing for healthy cells. So really, really power packed. And again, all of the herbs we're covering today have a lot of other properties I'm not even mentioning. I just we're mentioning for our purposes. So for survivors, first aid, the digestive health, self-care, and then healthy cell reproduction, right? We've found that, at least in my practice, I certainly found, and I know statistically it's true, that survivors of sexual and reproductive trauma very disproportionately, like in much higher numbers, have PCOD, pelvic inflammatory disease, endometriosis, testicular cancer, like stuff going on with like the abnormal cells in the anus, on the cervix, like, and a lot of that is due to it's multi-factor. It's like first we have like the issues with maybe valuing the self for self-care, or maybe the lack of privilege to actually have the time and funding to get therapy in and resolve the issues, or be able to take, there's that. And then there's also the actual physical trauma itself is going to like leave scarred tissue in areas that may be prone to get reinfected, and then finally start producing unhealthy cells. So wonderful to know about. Again, not instead of like seeking a main care provider or checking it out, but just like, you know, getting an abnormal cell exam done, and then you're like, okay, I really want to up my diet with the medicinal foods as a lifelong practice that are going to help me really produce and promote that healthy cell production. Okay, next one. Chickweed. Chickweed's a wonderful, affordable food. It's considered a weed, hence the name chickweed, but grows throughout the continents, and is wonderful to harvest the medium-sized leaves to work into any recipe like you would broccoli or spinach, or stir fry or stew. It's tonifying to the kidneys, nourishing to the bladder, and been known to support healthy blood production. So again, like thinking if we're dealing with like adrenal burnout, repeated infections, anything like that, it's like not very cleansing, but like been known to just like support and just gently cleanse the blood while also being like a wild available nutritive. Okay, next slide. Mallow, white flowered. Okay. It doesn't have to be white flowered. I don't know why I put that there. I think to remind me to talk about the energetic properties too. So this one's going to be huge for survivors, multifold. So physiologically, so for the physical properties, the leaves of mallow are wonderful and mucilaginous anti-inflammatory herbs. So again, the sticky icky that comes in and just like gently coats the digestive system, gently coats the bottom areas for, you know, for first aid, for example, if there's tearing, if there's inflammation, if there's stitches, scars, who knows what, like wonderful for sitz baths, wonderful for hot bath, wonderful for adhesions inside as well. It's not as stringent like plantain, and it doesn't help with like stop bleeding internally like plantain, but is wonderful for first aid outside and inside like plantain. And it also has like antibacterial, antifungal properties, not quite as strong as plantain either. I would say this one shines more when wanting to really soothe and bring down the inflammation like inside or outside. Um, yeah, just wonderful overall. I mean, I could go on all day about this one, but for our survivors, that's the context in which I usually use this, is going to be sitz baths, right? Steam, bottom steams, medicinal hot baths. And then energetically, I work a lot with white mallow flower, although you could use any flower. I just learned to use those ones here. You'll see it like 3 times on these slides. There's white flowers, and that's because um learning, and where I mainly learned how to make the energetic flower baths is in the Amazon when I was living there. And we did a lot of that for like survivors of sexual and reproductive trauma, was like the white mallow flower, the white rose petal. And it's associated with like cleansing, purity, even visually, like in our brains there can be, as survivors, a lot of things like the dirtiness of this and that, but not necessarily true for everyone. So just associate the color according to your cultural and cosmological beliefs. You could do like yellow for good luck. You could do like, I know they do yellow and red for like bringing the female and masculine in balance or whatever. But energetically, mallow is wonderful. Mallow flower is wonderful for survivors of sexual and reproductive trauma to take as a flower essence or a flower bath. um, it could be during the psychedelic experience, could be after, like all of those things that we talked about for psychedelic integration. But if you're already a practitioner offering ceremonies and you know that the person coming to you is a survivor, this could be just like a wonderful option for just adding in that flower bath, or adding in that pre or post protocol as an essence, as a pusanga, for example, the agua florida or the holy water that you use during your ceremony, for example. Wonderful for those things. Okay, next one. Mugwort. Oh, I didn't put them together. So organized, like always. I'm like, I did not put it with sage and mugwort. So mugwort, I mean with sage and motherwort. So mugwort, the third one of the Trinity, the holy Trinity of the plant nations in my mind. I love this photo, how you can see the underleaf part. It also has the silvery, there's a lot of lookalikes to mugwort, but this one also has that silvery, like when you move the leaf like that underneath, it should be like shiny moonlight almost like underneath there. And mugwort is a very strong herbal ally for uh, supporting the mind, clarifying the mind. Also antifungal, antibacterial, and astringent, so and nourishing to the skin. So we could look to mugwort for first aid for survivors, so like bottom steaming, sitz baths, hot baths. But this one has a very strong affinity, like in addition to those qualities, for the mind, for the dream state. Energetically has been known to help us astral travel, lucid dream, retrieve memories, clarify memories. And is a wonderful option to put in our like our dreamtime mixtures, our teas, our herbal bundles, our non-culturally appropriated smudge bundles, dream satchels. Very strong on the protection as well, like in the boundary holding with this one. And so for survivors, for our purposes, look to her for first aid. So topically for first aid, but also for navigating, especially through the dream spaces and the astral spaces. Okay. It's quite strong. And so even if you chose this one, for example, for a smudge bundle, like burning it, if it's freshly dried and still potent, the essential oils that are released when you're burning it can actually like stimulate brain pathways and stimulate memory, similar to romeric acids, not quite as, not in the same way or as strong as romeric acids, but have been known to like open up brain pathways like that. And so hence the like clarifying the mind, the helping with the vision, right? Energetically, that's expressed as helping clarify the vision and protect us when astral traveling. So this one has a lot of history around it in many cultures for being associated with moon time, bleeding time, the mysteries, everything like that. And again, we could have all classes just on one herb, but for our survivors, this one, night terrors is something that can be very common. Again, not, wanting to sleep because of the memories, also coming from psychedelic experiences, or for whatever reason, having memories resurface and trying to clarify. And the sensation of like, or maybe the memories are coming through dreams as well, or the processing of experiences. And so this is a wonderful for those who may be seeking, those survivors who may be seeking more support through dream time like that, and through through their own memories, through the dark spaces. And the traditions I've learned in, she's like associated in the same bundle of medicine, like with owl medicine, like seeing through the dark, no? And so like a lot for like vision questing, dark times, helping to see and hold boundaries in the dark spaces like that. So very key for survivors. And again, think to this one, if you know already that a survivor is coming to a therapy session or a just straight clinical, even think clinical therapy session, okay? But you could still put a couple drops of mugwort oil in the oil diffuser. There's like totally accessible ways, the spritzers, the pusangas, or if you're doing a more traditional ceremony, I would be putting her like for survivors who I know, maybe the thing happened at night, or maybe the night terrors and memories have been a thing. So I'm already putting it like on the sweat lodge rocks if I'm knowing that that's the thing, or in the bundle for that person. Yeah. Okay, next one. Valerian. Valerian root has a very strong history in the East, especially similar to fenugreek. And there are indigenous cousins and sisters that are native to North and South America as well. This has a very strong flavor. So not everyone is going. Remember, like the herbal allies, when we're looking for the physiological or physical properties, are only going to be as strong as the people actually take them. So, maybe looking to this one for like more like a Chinese medicine formula or a capsule or a tincture or something like that. Some people are all about the flavor, but it's just very supportive and calming to the nervous system. So I like to incorporate, I don't work a ton with this herbal ally, but I do sometimes bring it in as like, I'm bringing in the big guns, and again, we're like bringing in big guns within regard to a context where we're mainly focusing on like benign nutritive herbs that don't, I'm trying to give lots of food herbal allies. Can also be incorporated into stews. It does have a strong flavor, but I do like to bring this in as like a big gun within the small arena of nurturing survivors when we want to bring off like some of those first or most acute layers of anxiousness and like overdrive. If we're like really seeing adrenal burnout like right in front of our eyes, or like overhaul, an example is like, I don't use this much, for example, at birth, but sometimes I do have, and it can be a thing where, and it's actually both times that I've seen it in person, been survivors of sexual and reproductive trauma. Again, that adrenaline loop is so familiar that after birth, some clients can like ride that adrenaline instead of kind of sinking into the like love and the oxytocin and the progesterone and like all, and the prolactin and all the like gooey ooey. They can kind of be like, I was a person like that, but I've seen it in two other clients. Like I gave birth for the first time at a 19, right? And like literally like pushed him out and like hopped over my umbilical cord like a cat, like immediately, and was like, no one's touching my baby. Like very like, whoa. And I was in a safe place too. So, that can be sometimes a picture when we're looking at a picture of a survivor. Maybe they're coming out of a psychedelic space like that. Maybe they are coming out of therapy sessions like that, or just in that it's just an acute trauma. This would be what I would give, not forever, but just, maybe some like strong valerian tea or tincture to just like use throughout that week, use throughout that first week, and just like bring it down a notch. Yes. Okay, next one. Honeysuckle, Madre Silva. I love honeysuckle so much. She is traditionally indigenous to Asia, but is now found, I believe, on all continents where she can grow. And the leaves physiologically can help us to promote healthy blood pressure. So this is an herb that I use when, again, like the picture is high anxiety. So for example, the picture we were just talking about with valerian, maybe I might do like honeysuckle leaf and valerian, like just regulate the healthy blood pressure, just like bring it, like simmer down, just like bring all the anxiety down and just like sink into the process. Wonderful for supporting that. And then energetically, honeysuckle is one of the main herbal allies that I work with survivors of sexual and reproductive trauma. Honeysuckle flower essence has been known to, and even in the Bach lineage, is associated with uh, healing those layers of us that maybe like almost stuck in the past, like stuck in memories when the picture is like very early child sexual trauma, reconnecting with that innocence from childhood, peeling back the layers of nostalgia that may be associated. Like sometimes when we compartmentalize as survivors, we can have like a haze around the memories, or like even like it wasn't that bad, or like if it's a practitioner that's not ethical, like just like not seeing it somehow, not remembering like that somehow, only like the rose colored glasses effect kind of. And so for someone, when the picture is like the rose colored glasses effect, and or someone who's wanting to like connect back in with that healthy childhood and resolve that maybe trauma that's stuck in the past, honeysuckle flower essence or like bathing in the flowers is just wonderful. And again, an option that you might think of just having in your office, or incorporating into the offering, or in some way incorporating, you know, into the pusanga, for the ceremony of someone who's a survivor, or ceremony and or healing session. Okay, next one. White rose. Okay, and see, this is falling under that category of like the white rose petals, because that's what I've learned here, but certainly can be any rose. We did cover rose for our psychedelic integration. With the flower petals, she is a nervine. She calms the nervous system, has been known to be adaptogenic and supportive to finding homeostasis in the body. I included her here again because I'm talking energetically more now. So like think like rose flower bath, rose flower essence, or like having it in the room like a spritzer or oil diffuser or something, um, is wonderful for vibrant reproductive trauma. And this sounds so cheesy, but it's true. But like by opening the heart, you know, and this is what it's known for energetically, opening the heart again, and physically again, they expound on each other. Like physically it calms the nervous system so that we can kind of open our eyes to new experience, or open our heart again. Um, Also, she's protected with very nice spines on her, you know, the rose. And so energetically, it's like that feeling of feeling protected, right? Like when do we feel as though we can open our heart to new connections truly, and like be ourselves, like just be ourselves. Like I think on some level, we all long for that as humans, like to feel seen and loved, you know, and rose vibrationally is good for that. So just feeling loved and seen for yourself, and I guess protected enough to open ourselves up to new experiences and relationships with survivors. Okay. Mimosa flower. Mimosa flower is the bomb. I love mimosa flower so much. I believe we did this last class. Maybe we didn't. Okay. So we did mention for her, for the clients in psychedelic integration who may struggle with mood regulation. Okay. And again, not instead of finding a main care provider, but just like we talked about her, and as just a gentle mood booster. And physiologically, she is certainly that thing. Wonder of boosting to the oxytocin and serotonin in a nice, gentle, sustainable way, like vanilla. Okay. So another like wonderful option to have in there. Um, energetically though, she's on this list now because energetically, so her essence or bathing in the plant, like the flower bath, and you can even do like your own flower bath diet, could be the vehicle through which you access songs from the plants. And we will go over how to do that in our singing your medicine class next class. But yeah, incorporating this medicine energetically, so again, like in the pusanga and the spritzer and the essence and the bath, is wonderful for survivors of sexual and reproductive trauma, for and again, sounding so cheesy here, but having the courage to feel the emotions. And I have seen a lot of really cheesy memes that, I mean, I actually very much resonate with them. And at the same time, I'm like, wow, that's so cheesy. But of the thing where it's like pain passes in lineages until someone's strong enough to feel it or whatever. And I don't know, I feel like that plays in a lot to like what you believe about the cosmos and your lineage and your spiritual beliefs and psychological beliefs. But what I can say is that from my personal experience as a person who certainly sexual and reproductive trauma is on both sides of my family, and then depression majorly, I have found that to be true. I I have found that to be true. And this is the plant spirit that I would say has most helped me with that, like dieting Bobinsana and dieting mimosa. And Bobinsana is her cousin who lives here. She's just around the corner. Maybe I'll call her over for tea later. She lives in Peru and South America, but they're like sister cousins, like very, very similar. Bobinsana is more potent and a lot of her like physical constituents. So like going to be even more boosting to the oxytocin, but energetically both are known to uh yeah, really peel back layers and kind of open our emotions so that we're feeling again in sustainable ways. And it's nice because like physiologically it's boosting to the serotonin. And again, like the energetic and physical, that's why I work with the whole plant whenever possible, or like in various ways with the plant whenever possible. Um, because it's boosting to your mood like physiologically, while also kind of it's like giving you the hormones you need to kind of digest some of these feelings, you know. So this is a major plant to be incorporated when we're working with survivors in the context of healing with ceremonies. Think to the essence, think to the flower bath. Yes, you can think to the teas and tinctures like we also said as well. Think to just going and taking a nap under a nice mimosa tree as well, like in the evening, receiving medicine that way. Beautiful, very gentle but strong, known here as Princess Bobinsana, because she's a true princess and all the best and all the best and all the best ways. Okay. Morning glory. We talked about morning glory in our last class as well regarding psychedelic integration when we're looking at addiction pictures. Okay. And we're also this time going to be talking again about using her in a flower essence and or flower bath. So we're talking vibrational plant medicine or pusanga or spritzer or homeopathic remedy. I'm like any vibrational plant medicine. And I just wanted to reiterate that this one is wonderful for vibrationally healing sexual and reproductive trauma, particularly when we've been covering it up or self-medicating through addictions. So again, wonderful. For example, I certainly have known many people who have gone to ketamine clinic sessions, iboga clinic sessions, like legal ways to do psychedelic therapy just specifically to heal their addictions because they know that like something under here is what I'm trying to not feel, you know? And so we want to give those survivors extra support, all survivors, but extra support with the so I would think like Bobinsana, morning glory flower, honeysuckle, like working with those essence to really bring back the support and resources and relationships with these plants that are actually not afraid to hold your hand, so to speak, or put an arm around you through your darkest moments. Like that's the vibration of morning glory. Similar to Datura, Vulture medicine, and I do remember mentioning that last time as well, that not only is it able to witness your darkness, but also is nurtured like in that relationship, like it's symbiotic in that way. Like she blooms at night, she's a dark one and is good like that. And again, vibrationally, specifically for support, not going back to the addictions. Okay. Yes. Copaiba. Okay. Copaiba is a wonderful herbal ally for survivors for promoting healthy cell growth. So you can take her internally. She actually is tapped in a tree like maple. So you need to tap her. As far as I know, is not over harvested. I will include a couple good resources from Peru for that. Um, she has blown up in the essential oil community, which I'm unclear as to why they're making it into essential oils because it comes out in an oil resin. But like I said, I'll include some resources where you can just get this straight tapped copaiba oil and you can just put that directly on scarred tissue. So wonderful for like promoting healthy cells and dissolving scarred tissue, which maybe was incurred by sexual or reproductive trauma in the past. Internally, also, you can take it for a period of like 10 to 14 days, doing like 3 to 4 drops in warm water on an empty stomach for like an internal diet for promoting healthy cells. So like an anti-cancer diet, but promoting healthy cell diet. Okay. Also wonderful to drop into like, and that same, like for all of the ones that promote healthy cells on a physiological way, don't forget about them when we're thinking bottom steaming. Okay. So if you're like, oh, I got like a bad pap smear, I got like abnormal cell thing, like you can incorporate these herbs for general well-being and also to promote healthy cells. And dissolve scarred tissues in those areas. Steaming is a great way to receive the herbal medicine like up inside. Wonderful, because it just like that tissue is very absorbent. You'll get the medicinal properties through the oils, and it's not invasive, right? A very non-invasive way. Like rather than like douching or doing suppositories or whatever, like steaming is a wonderful way to receive medicine all up in the anus, all up into whatever you got going on down there, and can be very cathartic for survivors. I'll get more into steaming into our medicine making class, but it's a wonderful practice. Okay, next slide. Aguaje. Okay, this is another South American tree. I'll also put good resources for this one, not over harvested. It grows like a giant palm. Uh, the eggs look like the seed. The fruit looks like snake eggs. Like that's why I put that close up picture, like legit looks like a snake, and you peel it off like that, like a scale. And the inside fruit is bright orange, very thin. Like it looks like an egg, but it's like very thin when you bite into it, and mostly seed pod. So the medicinal part that we're using of the aguaje is actually like fruit oil, like pressed fruit. And it comes out like all orange, gooey, ooey, anti-aging, promotes healthy cell reproduction, promotes collagen production, promotes natural SPF in the skin. This one's blowing up on the beauty market. So, watch your sources, be mindful of your sources. But this is wonderful also for like survivor first aid and self-care. So like not only do we want to dissolve any scarred tissue that may be there, but we want to help promote the healthy skin to regrow. And we also want to give that like elasticity to that new skin. We want to give that sense of self-beautifying in a way, and self-protecting to that skin. So just to incorporate, you can get aguaje in powder, like fruit powder. You can take her in capsules or oil. Topically drop some drops in the bath and the steams. This is like a must-have. Copaiba and aguaje are my main ingredients in my like C-section scar remediation cream, for example, because it's like you got the scar tissue dissolving with the copaiba, and then you have this like gooey, ooey, sticky, icky, like creating new delicious collagen-y skin underneath. So wonderful. Apple blossom. Okay, so apple blossom is a wonderful herbal ally that's been used by indigenous peoples of Europe for a very long time. I'm sure other places too. Um, Apple blossoms are a very gentle nervine, calming to the nervous system. Delicious tea, wonderful to put in like iced teas, popsicles, food, salads. And then energetically is wonderful for fertility, energetically, like in flower essences, baths, making, gosh, a marital bed out of apple wood is a traditional thing that used to be done, in Europe. Maybe still is, I'm not sure, but cradles, for like the fertile like family. Yeah, Beltane rites under the apple orchard, like just energetically associated. I work with this one with apple blossom essence and flower baths a lot when survivors also can disproportionately struggle with infertility because of repeated infections, because of scarred tissue, because, male and female, because of scarred tissue, because of repeated infections. So when working with fertility, wonderful to put into like a abdomen wrap or full body wrap or hot bath, anything like that. Okay. Pokeberry. Controversial up in here. um, so I love pokeberry a lot. I trained as an herbalist initially like 20 years ago in Asheville, North Carolina. And And you know, I was always kind of like this, like a little bit funny, a little bit street kid, a little bit res, a little bit whatever. And yeah, like when they were teaching us about the herbs, I'm like, oh, you don't want me to eat this, herbalist teacher? Okay. Like I was also 16. I was also 16. So I was probably just like being a teenager, but that was my rebellion. And I like went really heavy into communing with pokeberry and datura throughout my herbal training. Those were like my two favorite Appalachian herbs. And and pokeberry is a master. I've considered, they're all masters, but a master of the plant nations and highly undervalued. I find that they're just such a big spirit that people want them to dim their light at times so they don't get jealous. And so for survivors, I love to use pokeberry and lymph cleanses. So it's one of the most powerful cleansers of the lymph system that we have. So when we're looking at adrenal fatigue, we're looking at chronic illnesses from the sexual and reproductive trauma. We can do a very strong cleanse, and with done with care, partner with main care providers. So the old way to do it is just you have like one berry a day, two berries the second day, three berries the third day, four berries the fifth day, supposedly up to seven, but for our purposes to be extra safe, eco-essential herbalists, let's say 4 days. Um, just like that, one berry the first day, two berries the second day, three berries the third day, four berries the fourth day, in the morning on an empty stomach, and then lots of water throughout the day. Lots of water, lukewarm, not cold water throughout the day. Going to be one of the strongest cleanses that you can do hormonally for your lymph. Very supportive to the immune system, traditionally done, you know, by indigenous nations throughout the continents, but particularly in North America for just seasonal cleansing and supporting the immune system like that. Yeah, so I like to use it for survivors like that. And then also, like I said, for red raspberries, you know, a nice alternative if you're trying to get like real primal with your treatments, but maybe dealing with a client who is not like looking for menstruation rituals or any body fluid rituals like that. It can be lovely. And also cleansing to the lymphs and the glands, right? To just put topically. Okay. Yeah, I know we're already doing, you don't need to go back on the other side. I did want to say, like, and repeat, all of these herbal allies have many other properties. We're just staying with our training, but I didn't want to, you know, disrespect poke. I feel them like lashing me, but strong folk tradition surrounding the poke plant, especially particularly in the southeastern United States, as being incorporated the leafy greens as like a food, a traditional folk food, a traditional Afro folk food, a traditional food of the people. You do need to soak the leaves and process them because it's very tannin rich and will be toxic if you don't process it the right way. So, and the bonus material, I'm going to add some poke green recipes because it's like a very long history of like feeding entire groups of people who are very preserving a lot of these medicine lineages that we're talking about. Okay, next slide. Rue or ruda, rue, the common rue, culinary rue. We got macho and embra up here. We got the female flowering. We got the male non-flowering. Both can be useful energetically in cleansing for survivors of sexual and reproductive trauma. We're only talking vibrational medicine right now, but you can use the whole plant. So the leaves, the stem, the flowers, and a plant bath, a cold plant bath, the hot plant bath. Be careful with the steaming, or be careful. I don't recommend this one as much for hot plant baths or steaming. It's not as strong as oregano, but it has a lot of those oils that could burn a little. But wonderful option for like flower essence, pusanga, spritzer, cold plant bath. And even just like this, like working with the whole plant whenever possible, like bundles, smudge bundles in your pocket, amulets. I frequently will take just like branches of ruda, and that's what we're like doing a cleansing with. It's traditionally associated with also like good luck, abundance, protection throughout South America and Central America. Okay, next one. Damiana. Okay, so Damiana leaf, wonderful herbal ally for tonifying the reproductive systems in both male and females. She does tend to have more of an affinity towards the uterus and ovaries. But in both male and females has been known to tone the reproductive organs as far as like promoting homeostasis, healthy tissue, healthy cell reproduction. And is also another wonderful herbal ally for navigating the mind, the dream state, the memories, opening the vision. No, opening the vision. Energetically, the flowers can be used in tincture. I mean, sorry, in flower essence or flower bath. Or the pusanga or holy water used during the ceremony or smudge for opening the vision of the survivor. Again, when talking about repressed memories, compartmentalization, and then taken internally, could be taken internally, and teas or tinctures or vinegars for navigating the mind and astral travel, activating the dreams, perhaps processing night terrors. Can also be used in a wonderful, lovely, like, Damiana and Mugwort Dreamtime smudge bundle, getting ready for your dream space, protecting the dreams from night terrors like that. I'm like, oh yeah, oh yeah. Rosemary. We have rosemary again. We did rosemary before when integrating psychedelic experience. So I hope you remember about rosemary that she activates the memory and mind through the romeric acids and has been known to promote brain elasticity in creating new healthy brain pathways, which is what we're going to be looking for in our class when we go over like therapies that have been known to be helpful for survivors. Like EMDR, for example, is what comes to mind. You could totally like eat or bring your rosemary tea to your EMDR session where you're going to be processing some of your traumatic memories, but also resourcing those traumatic memories in an effort to forge new healthy brain pathways, which that's the name of the game, right? Because that they're psychologically, if I translate that into spiritual terms, is like finding the beast's weakness. It's like without even killing the beast of the sexual trauma. It's like we're just going a different way now. Like we're no longer having to relate in these same types of ways with ourselves, with others, with romantic relationships, with sexuality, because we're finding resources to forge new brain pathways. Also, the flowers energetically for plant bath and flower essence for activating ancestral memory and healing ancestral reproductive and sexual trauma, which is in all of our ancestries, I'm sure. So if that's something that you think is in your ancestry, it's a wonderful one to add to bottom steams, ceremony smudges. Again, some drops of rosemary oil in the diffuser in a clinical setting can also be an accessible way in a pusanga like that. Okay. Hibiscus. Hibiscus is a wonderful, gentle aphrodisiac herb. So if we're looking at low libido or we're looking at infertility as an issue or a result or a symptom of being a survivor, this can be a wonderful one to incorporate into teas, into tinctures. Flor de Jamaica, Jamaican hibiscus also would be an even better option if you have that around. Sorrel. Into bottom steams. It's beautiful as well. So like wonderful option for the iced teas, wonderful option for like the plant baths that make it very it looks like what it is. It's like va 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 boom. And it's not the strongest aphrodisiac out there by any means, just like gently boosting to the libido, tonifying, been known to be tonifying gently to the kidneys and reproductive organs. But it's also like a nice visceral one to bring into like any fertility rituals, any gender, and also to like liven up and maybe forge a new healthy relationship with our sexuality like that, right? In that type of aphrodisiac way. Okay. Lemon balm. Lemon balm is a wonderful adaptogenic herb, which we talked about that made up group now. Which means that it has a wide range, right? She's that friend who you can take anywhere. And sometimes you're like, wow, where did you take me? And she has an affinity for calming the nervous system, helping the body find its homeostasis, is also wonderful for digestion, which we talked about can be affected a lot with survivors. Wonderful flavor. So that's great, like for like adding to your tea blends, stews, into foods, wonderful flavor. And energetically, just very cleansing. And like the name says, sweet Melissa. I don't love Latin names, but this one I do. Sweet Melissa. I mean, she is sweet freaking Melissa. Look at that. Like she does, her vibration has that very strong affinity towards like early childhood, towards moms and children, towards survivors who maybe had that trauma in early childhood, or it would be another or a great one to put in the blend along with honeysuckle, or maybe another option, you know, when we're looking at early childhood sexual trauma and vibrational plant medicine. This could be a wonderful option for the flower foot bath, for the spritzer, for the flower essence. Lemongrass. Okay, this is wonderful for first aid for survivors. So antibacterial, antifungal. So think to like our bottom steams, our sitz baths, you know, if there's like physical issues we're looking at. But then energetically, lemongrass is invigorating to the mind and has been known to boost the mood. So a wonderful one when just like smoothing out those rough edges around like any mood shifts and swings, or perhaps like at the end of a healing session or the weeks after, you know. Valerian is certainly like the big guns because it's like so calming. Lemongrass is nice because it's gently boosting to the immune system while also invigorating the mind. So it's not necessarily like super, super. No, if you have like an EMDR, or who knows, like any type of ceremony or healing session where you're addressing these things with your clients, and then they're like driving home, you're not wanting to have like lavender maybe or valerian, right, tea afterwards. So lemongrass is a wonderful option for like calming and uplifting at the same time, as well as physical first aid for survivors. Chamomile. Chamomile is wonderful for the nervous system and also on a physiological level. So, in any of the physical ways we've spoken about, is supportive to the nervous system and the digestive system strongly. So particularly with children who are survivors, when I'm working with children, this is one of my favorite herbal allies. It does seem to have an affinity towards small children, and therefore energetically also working with the flower in essence or bath for that early childhood sexual trauma, whether it's like more recent or past. You know, chamomile water is certainly something, and yellow prairie flower that I would like pour frequently in North America on the Sweat Lodge rocks for the healing sexual trauma, to just bring that sweet, calming, nurturing spirit out. I think we can skip that one. I already did tobacco flower. Like I did tobacco in last class and talked about the leaves on the flower. Okay, cedar, Western red. Indigenous to the Western United States, antifungal, antibacterial, anti-parasitic, and so energetically very cleansing. Wonderful option, you know, when you're sourcing in a good way, to use in smudges for cleansing the area, for honoring. Wonderful for bottom steaming, also very strongly promotes healthy cells. So wonderful again for those bottom steams, for like directly on the reproductive organs, promoting healthy cells. Like that plant bath, I mean, in a pusanga or a plant bath, like during and after ceremony, for just like promoting that healthiness and peeling back layers, vibrationally it has a very, very strong spirit, like strong and steady and ancient spirit like that. So can bring that like strong protection, which is often what I feel like singing the cedar smoke song or smudging with cedar is like, very strong protection, and holding the boundaries and standing up for oneself. Lion's mane mushroom, technically in the fungi kingdom, but lion's mane mushroom is going to be a wonderful and key herbal ally when working with survivors of sexual and reproductive trauma for that brain health. Lion's mane mushroom has a strong affinity towards the brain. It looks like the brain. It's one of those herbs that definitely looks like what it is for. It comes to apart in like little brainy like sections. It's a wonderful food that's an herbal ally. You can stir fry it, use it in stews, take it in capsules and tincture. I will just stress with this one, it's been known so much to help produce healthy new brain pathways. And just remember that we want to do the healthy, resourceful thing. Like it's not just about like popping the lion's mane along with the psychedelic mushroom or along with this or that. It's science is showing that it's more about incorporating it long term into the diet, like rosemary, And especially taking like larger amounts when you're engaging in those healthy interactions or healthy activities that you're actually trying to reinforce, rather than like popping it and I'm going to go about my same old day type of a thing. Cause then you can just be like ingraining the same old stuff. Lion's mane flower. Ooh, I was like, well, we're on lion's mane. So this one is indigenous to South Africa, but is now found on all continents. I think, actually, I don't know if I've seen it in North America. Definitely a lot of it here in South America. Hummingbirds love it. Each little petal looks like a penis. I don't know if you can see that. Like there's like a head on the petal and everything and a shaft and it's beautiful and another herb that looks like what it's good for in tea or tincture. It's very known to be very tonifying for reproductive organs, particularly male reproductive organs. It's a gentle aphrodisiac. So if we're looking at like reconnecting with the sensual self in a good way, and has been known to help with the healthy brain pathways as well. Not nearly as strong as like lion's mane mushroom or rosemary, but has been known to support brain elasticity um, and passage growth like that. Also wonderful herbal ally for dream time when taking internally. So thinking about like herbal teas, thinking about dreamtime smudges, thinking about smokes were mentioned. I saw in the chat box. I am not going over the smoking properties because as much in this class, just because it's like so widely debated in the herbal community. But wonderful, wonderful option for when going into dream space, clarifying the mind, astral travel, everything like that. And again, this one's flavor is more, what it looks like. It definitely has been known physically, like is generally called male, is associated with men's health traditionally, like, but for everyone, through dream time and supporting the reproductive organs like that. So now we are at class, and I think there's a few slides left. I can't see the bar.
There's 11 slides left.
Okay. I mean, I guess I can go over class. I can also fit them into another class. I wanted to get them done now because we have one last section of herbs beyond this one that's going to be included in your untying the knot section. That's protective herbs. That's specifically only like for protection, for spiritual protection. I don't know. Does everyone feel okay with it? Should I just do it, Michaela? Should I just keep going?
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned in the break, I had a feeling we would go over, and I mean, if people do need to like leave and take space and things like that, that's totally okay. I'm willing and would love to keep it open so that we can keep this a beautiful, like, this is all in the lesson together. So if you're willing to
Okay.
stay late,
Okay.
I
Let's
am
do
willing
that.
to stay late.
Let's do that. And yeah, as always, Michaela was having foresight and I was being like rigid and like, no, like I can't. So let's keep going. And of course, if anyone is hopping off, yeah, we can totally take another bio break. Let's take another bio break. And if anyone needs to hop off before we close class, of course, it's not reflected in your attendance, and pardon your time that you will have to catch up on the record. Okay. Thanks for your patience, everyone. And thanks, Michaela, for knowing what's up. Okay, let's go. I'm like, once again, let's go. And I did go over the slides on our break and saw that like 2 were repeats and I took 1 out. So we only have 8 more. So not much. It should be like not much. I think we're good on lion's mane. Hawthorn berry. Okay, this is wonderful support for survivors internally for heart health and vein health and supporting healthy like blood and circulation. That can also be, fluctuations. And again, we have a specific class on like the symptoms and how sexual and reproductive trauma can kind of show up in clients so that you can be trauma informed and without them having to say like, oh, that may be a thing. You just know it's a thing. And so it could be presenting in weight fluctuations a lot and circulation issues, as well as all of the things we've talked about. And hawthorn berry internally is wonderful for supporting, in tincture and vinegar, fresh, certainly delicious, for supporting heart health, circulation health, and homeostasis within the thyroid, and therefore like healthy weight fluctuate. Although a lot of the times, and we'll get into it, the weight fluctuations are more emotional, but yeah, just for supporting those actual physical systems around it so that it can be easier in that way. Okay. Castor, I should have put castor oil in parentheses. And again, I don't want to say it for every plant, but literally we could have like not only a whole class on each plant, but probably like the whole 15-week series, we could just like only go into each plant. So castor is certainly under that category, and has been used as a sacred plant for thousands of years by humanity. In some of the tombs that have been excavated in Egypt, castor has been found and is major in the Papyrus Ebers. If y'all are reading that at all, that translation of the first medical text, it's like one of the main, that and dandelion are two of the main herbal allies in it. And so the oil that we'll be talking about, the pressed oil from the seed pod, which is shown there in the picture, is wonderful. One of the best herbs for dissolving scarred tissue. So like we talked about with copaiba, with this one, it's even slightly stronger than copaiba as far as it being, it could burn a little bit. And so when in doubt, dilute in a carrier oil. There's no harm in diluting in a nice nutritive carrier oil. If you're working with sensitive areas such as the bottom parts or near the face or anywhere, you can apply directly. You can drop into steams, hot baths, sitz baths for dissolving scar tissue and promoting the production of healthy cells. Comfrey. Comfrey is a wonderful, for some reason, comfrey ended up here. I'm like, it should have been at the beginning, but cool. Comfrey, I'm like, I thought it was after plantain. Comfrey is a wonderful nutritive herbal ally that also is wonderful and perhaps one of the best that I've ever met thus far in life for promoting healthy cells. So much so that, as we mentioned before, if you are dealing with a deep cut and you're looking to comfrey for first aid, so like cuts, tears, adhesions, all the things we've mentioned, stitches, torn tissue, anything like that, you want to make sure that you're not dealing with anything beyond like what we would call a second degree tear. So like not going into like layers of fat or meat really at all, just like skin layers we're going to be dealing with comfrey for if we're using it as first aid for survivors, because she's so good at doing her awesome job of promoting healthy cell reproduction or promoting healthy cells that she can heal the top layers, and then you'll have like this kind of keloid scar inside where the bottom layers didn't really heal. So that's just words of the wise for comfrey. But for more superficial like bruising, cutting, anything like that, this is wonderful to apply topically, to put in salves, oils, creams, steams. I'm like creams, steams, and automobiles, hot baths certainly. And then when I've had people who maybe they are recovering from like actual broken bones as well, sadly, the sexual and reproductive trauma can certainly, depending on what part of the spectrum you're working on, at that time, if you're like a first responder advocate, like certainly there can be broken bones and like major healing that has to go down. This is wonderful for taking internally, for healing the broken bones quicker. So fractured, broken bones, especially in those places that like they can't really do anything, for like broken fingers, feet. No, like they'll put it in like a sling and then like that's it. But anywhere, broken coccyx can be, that's what I've used it for, like when your coccyx is actually fractured or broken. And you can drink it as tea. This is debated in the herbalism community because they're like, the alkaloids for this plant are really big and you shouldn't take it long term. And so just word to the wise, if someone has like kidney issues, like very delicate kidneys, maybe not the plant for them, but otherwise it can be wonderful to take for like even a season, and teas, or foods or tincture to help the bones and mend from the inside out. Birch. I find that in modern holistic herbalism, it's very sad to me that like the tree nations are not, I feel, incorporated very much at all. I noticed that even receiving some of my first herbal trainings, and still notice it today.
don't really know why that is, because when I look at like indigenous herbal traditions from Europe, Asia, indigenous nations in the States and South America, everywhere I've learned from, uh, you know, tree medicine is incorporated heavily, heavily. I mean, there's entire indigenous nations that are like, nah, for real, you can like eat the like coconut, like we make our houses from it, our transportation from it, our clothes from it, our medicine from it, our food from it. It's like the buffaloes, like Buffalo Nation. And birch certainly falls under this category hugely for the indigenous northeastern peoples of what's now called the United States and Canada. I guess it would be southern eastern of Canada. It's a true tree of the people. Boats for the people, clothes for the people, making house for the people, medicine for the people, food for the people. Birch includes all those things. So all hail to the birch, and very sad that the silvery birch is now almost endangered with like flesh eating bacteria. So we can just look to like the common Midwestern birch and trees that are not endangered or in any way like on like scared like that. But for survivors, I love to use the leaf of birch in teas for its antifungal, antibacterial, diuretic. So it's tonifying to the kidneys and also wonderful for like clearing out the bladder. Good first aid for sitz bath steams if we're looking at UTIs, infections. Wonderful herb to put in the blends, like if we're looking at tears, if we're looking at hemorrhoids, if we're looking at fistulas, if we're looking at anything like that. It can be a wonderful one to like put in with the plantain or put in with the comfrey. Energetically, it's associated with blessings and purifying, which is wonderful medicine for survivors as well. So we could be using like tree essence, leaf bath, like that. Again, just napping or spending time with these trees, volunteering for these trees. They've been here for the peoples where you're living for a very, very long time. And so I would say for that reason as well, connecting back with ancestral memory and ancestral ways of life energetically. Yeah. Achiote, another South American one. Okay. Although I think this is actually indigenous to Asia. I'm not 100% sure about that. I first met her in Asia. I do know that she's there now. And very widely used in the Amazon here in South America for reproductive health and first aid. Energetically wonderful for protection. I mean, look at those seed pods. That's like some major protection going on there. And inside the seed pods is like little orange seeds that make that orange paint. I don't know if you've seen people like who are doing diets in the jungle. They come up with like that. They come up with that. Thank you. They come up with that orange paint. It's from the achiote. And the leaves can be drinking in a tea or incorporated into food if you process them the right way for tonifying the kidneys, the bladder, the reproductive organs, and both male and female. Wonderful for treating UTIs or, not instead of a main care provider, but an option for treating or alleviating UTIs, yeast infections, candida infections. So sitz bath, steams internally, and then energetically, like painting with a ritual alternative to blood. And yeah, and just a beautiful, beautiful herbal ally. This is a very strong herbal ally there for protecting the reproductive health of survivors energetically and physically. Jasmine flower. Jasmine flower is a wonderful herbal ally for incorporating into teas, tinctures, oils, or endemic. I'm sorry, I just saw this chat box before we move on from the last one. Endemic doesn't mean indigenous though. Endemic means that it's really prevalent there. No? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. We'll look it up. We'll look it up. Jasmine flower can be wonderful for calming down for first aid. So like in teas and tinctures and essential oils and baths and steams for calming like cramping. So this could be like for survivors who are bleeding people or who are experiencing abortion, miscarriage,
who are perhaps cramping in their body and their stomachs or in their uterus or different organs due to the sexual or reproductive trauma, like still actively in fight or flight. Like this is more for acute first aid, no? And so this is going to calm down gently. The same thing that motherwort does to our emotions with the, like taking a jagged mountain and making it a bunny and green field. The jasmine does that to cramping in the body, the jasmine flower. Okay, so wonderful for that first aid, and then like just gentle pain alleviation. It just helps out, helps out. Generally not contraindicated, and can even be incorporated into, like I said, I'm not a huge essential oil fan, but the times that I do love essential oils is if you're a clinical practitioner, like you're in a hospital, you're in a psych ward, you're in a jail, for example, you're in a safe house, you were in just an office where you're not trying to like burn a bunch of stuff, a bunch of herbs. Essential oils are great for that. It can be wonderful to put in a room. Yeah, if you're like advocating for someone, for a survivor through an abortion, for example, or through a miscarriage, or um, through, yeah, something like that. But also just general good first aid for survivors. Saw palmetto. Saw palmetto is vibrationally very strong and protective. I like smiled at it like I'm flirting. This is a big one for Florida. um, and 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 has an affinity for reproductive organs and promoting reproductive health, but particularly in men. I forget what the other one we mentioned was, lion's mane flower. So we've done like a couple that are more each way, but all of the ones we mentioned can go any genders, but this one is particularly like for testicular health, for balancing hormones of excess testosterone, which again can be used maybe if we're in fight or flight constantly, right? For like finding homeostasis within our hormonal state and bringing it down a notch. Has been known to really support, yeah, the prostate, the testicles, and the male reproductive organs. But in anyone can be regulating to the hormones and finding our healthy levels of adrenaline and testosterone. Energetically very protective. I mean, look at the like leaves, very spiky, very protective. You can build like legit a whole house with these. This is another indigenous herbal ally that's supported entire nations in the Southeast region for time immemorial, very sacred plant like that. And yeah, all hail to the saw palmetto. Okay, and this is our last one for this lecture. It is moringa, that has blown up as a superfood, as our newest South American superfood, I think, right? Or something, Central American superfood. But for our purposes in class today, that I know of, it is not yet over harvested. As always, check your sources if it's not local. But this is just very rich in nutritional content, wonderful adaptogenic herb, specifically with an affinity towards brain health and balancing the hormones. Does have an affinity towards promoting reproductive health in all genders, and has many, many other properties too. I know, and like I literally know a botanist who her entire thesis is just moringa. It contains many other properties, also very strong with the promoting healthy cell reproduction. So think to her for like steams, just lifelong health, can totally be taken in capsules, tinctures, teas, and foods throughout life, just for supporting homeostasis and really cradling the survivor like that throughout life. Because yeah, as we open this class by saying, just by the nature of our modern lifestyle, we're kind of all depleted of our basic minerals and nutrients, and can live in a fight or flight state. So this is a wonderful herbal ally for survivors, just lifelong friend like that. Yeah, and thank you so much for joining.